Hi everyone, I am Jaswanth. Now I am discussing regarding the hypothalamus physiology. It is a diencephalic structure which is present beneath the thalamus and separated by hypothalamic sulcus. It also forms the anterior inferior wall of the third ventricle. It is mainly made up of nuclear masses which are present in 5 different areas. Those are preoptic area, anterior or supraoptic area, tuberal or middle area, posterior or mammillary area, lateral area. The preoptic area consists of preoptic nucleus which is involved in thermoregulation. The anterior area consists of supraoptic nucleus which secretes antidiuretic hormone. The suprachiasmatic nucleus involved in circadian rhythm. Paraventricular nucleus secretes hormones like oxytocin, thyroid releasing hormone. Anterior nucleus involved in thermoregulation and sexual behavior. Whereas the tuberal area consists of ventromedial nucleus which is a satiety or satisfying center. Dorsomedial nucleus involved in control of emotions such as rage and placidity, and it also involves in control of blood pressure and heart rate. Arcuate nucleus involved mainly secretes the dopamine, whereas the posterior area consists of mammillary nucleus which is a wake promoting area and also controls the emotions. The posterior nucleus controls thermoregulation and increase in blood pressure. The lateral nucleus consists of lateral nucleus which is a thirst and a hungry center. Discuss in detail regarding the functions of hypothalamus. First discuss about the vegetative functions, that is regulation of body temperature. The nucleus that are involved in this are anterior preoptic nucleus which is responsible for heat loss, whereas the posterior nucleus is responsible for heat gain. Let us see the mechanism involved in this. Whenever a person exposed to heat or hot climate, the receptors that are present in the skin and the deep tissues that are such as warm receptors get stimulated, and this in turn sends signals to anterior preoptic nucleus which gets stimulated and causes increase in heat loss by sweating and vasodilation. Now let us see another condition wherein a person is exposed to cold temperature or cold climate. Then the cold receptors that are present in the skin and the deep tissues get stimulated, which in turn sends signals to the posterior nucleus of hypothalamus. It causes decrease in heat loss by vasoconstriction and shivering. Now let us see another function, that is regulation of body water or plasma osmolarity. The nucleus that are involved in this are lateral nucleus which act as thirst center and supraoptic nucleus which secretes antidiuretic hormone. The mechanism that is involved in this is whenever there is decrease in the body water, there will be increase in plasma osmolarity, which in turn stimulates osmoreceptors of anteroventral wall of third ventricle that is situated near anterior hypothalamus, which in turn sends signals to lateral nucleus and supraoptic nucleus. The lateral nucleus causes increase in thirst, whereas the supraoptic nucleus increase antidiuretic secretion, hormone secretion, which is responsible for water retention. These both in turn causes decrease in plasma osmolarity and body water becomes normal. Now let us see another function, that is regulation of body weight and hunger. It is mainly controlled by lateral nucleus which is hunger center and ventromedial nucleus which is satiety or satisfying center. There are several theories which explains this regulation, and let us discuss one by one. Glucostatic mechanism and thermostatic mechanism. According to this, the hunger center is chronically active, that is the person will feel hungry continuously, but it is inhibited constantly by satiety center. The functions of satiety center is mainly regulated by concentration of blood glucose and insulin in the blood. Let us see three scenarios wherein there is decrease in blood glucose. Whenever there is decrease in concentration of blood glucose, the satiety center inhibitory signals will get reduced, so that the signals of hunger center will get increased, so that the person will feel more hungry. Whenever after eating food, the person blood glucose levels are normal, therefore the satiety center will get stimulated and the signals will get increased, and which in turn causes suppress of hunger by decreasing the signals of hunger center. And another case of diabetes mellitus, wherein the blood glucose concentration level is high but the insulin levels are low, or either insulin resistance will be there. Due to that, the functions of satiety center, that is the signals of satiety center, will get decrease, which in turn causes increase in hunger center signals, so that the person will feel more hungry at that time. So now let us see thermostatic mechanism, wherein whenever the cold receptors of the body get stimulated, there will be series of functions that takes place in the hypothalamus which causes hungry. Whenever warm receptors get stimulated, opposite to the cold receptors it happens. That is, the person will not feel hungry. Now let us discuss another theory, that is lipostatic and peptide regulation. It can be explained in two states. One is fasting state and well-fed state. The peptides that are present beneath this dotted line are the peripheral peptides which are secreted by the body cells, whereas the peptides that are present above this dotted line are the central peptides which are secreted by brain. And under fasting state, the stomach and the other tissues will secrete ghrelin and cortisol, which in turn causes release of central peptides in brain such as orexin A, which is the utmost important peptide that is present in the brain, which stimulates the hypothalamus and promotes hunger. And whereas adipose and other tissues secretes leptin under well-fed state, which causes release of CCK and other peptides in the brain, which inhibits the hypothalamus, thereby suppresses the hunger. And another functions, let us see, those are autonomic functions. The hypothalamus is the head center for the autonomic nervous system. The anterior part of the hypothalamus controls the parasympathetic functions, whereas the posterior part controls the sympathetic functions. It also controls the heart rate and blood pressure. Posterior and lateral part of the hypothalamus increases heart rate and blood pressure on stimulation, whereas the stimulation of anterior part causes decrease in heart rate and blood pressure. Hypothalamus is also involved in regulation of endocrine function. It controls the secretion of anterior pituitary, and it is connected to the anterior pituitary by hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. The neuronal cells that are present in paraventricular area, arcuate nucleus and ventromedial nucleus of hypothalamus secretes the releasing and inhibitory hormones. These hormones reaches the anterior pituitary via hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract and releases its secretions in the anterior pituitary. And some of the examples of releasing and inhibitory hormones are growth hormone releasing hormone, which promotes growth, whereas the growth hormone inhibitory hormone suppresses the growth, and thyroid releasing hormone, gonadotrophin releasing hormone are some of the examples. And hypothalamus also involved in secretion of posterior pituitary hormones. The supraoptic nucleus of anterior area releases antidiuretic hormone, which is involved in maintenance of blood water and blood pressure, whereas the paraventricular nucleus releases oxytocin, which mainly causes expulsion of fetus and milk ejection. It also controls the adrenal medulla by dorsomedial nucleus. And hypothalamus plays a major role in limbic system. It is the headquarter of the limbic system. It mainly controls the limbic functions by Papa circuit and amygdala circuit. It also controls the rage by lateral nucleus and placidity by ventromedial nucleus. Hypothalamus is also regarded as reward and punishment center. Whenever there is a stimulation of anterior and posterior parts of hypothalamus, there will be increase in desire of sexual activity. Therefore, it controls the sexual activities. And regulation of circadian rhythms is done by suprachiasmatic nucleus. It also related to the lipid or carbohydrate metabolism, and it may be related to the natural death even. And the clinical aspects includes whenever there is lesion to certain nucleus of hypothalamus, the functions of that particular nucleus will get lost. For example, whenever there is a lesion to the supraoptic nucleus, the secretion of ADH will be lost, will get reduced or either lost. So there will be no ADH in the blood, thereby causes more loss of water through urine. This causes diabetes insipidus. Thank you.